Will do.
Okay, good contribution there at the end there, Travis. Howdy, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another Aggie Game Day Extra podcast. I'm Chief Meteorologist Max Crawford, alone here in our digital studio because we have got our boys, Travis and Tyler, out in Smashville. They are in Nash Vegas, whatever you want to call it. They're in Middle Tennessee because we have got some basketball to play before we go to the big dance. We'll call this the small dance, guys. How's it going in Nashville?
It's going good. We got our hot chicken last night at Hattie B's, little chicken and waffle combo. I didn't get the hot chicken with the waffles. That seemed kind of weird to me. What did you like the hot chicken with the waffles?
I loved it, but I just love hot chicken. It was the first time trying the waffles at Hattie B's. Amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'm going back there later this week too because I got to get it again. I enjoyed the little spice with the waffle combination.
Okay.
It's a little syrup on there too. You got the sweet and the spicy, and I enjoyed it.
Max, do you think you'd go with the spicy and the waffles, or would you go regular with the waffle?
No, sweet and spicy's that's the perfect combo if you ask me. So Tyler was saying earlier he didn't try the Mother Clucker or whatever the hottest one is. I have tried that one, and it is pretty darn hot, but it is also pretty darn good.
So the funny story is there was actually a couple in front of us who might have been some foreign exchange students or something like that, didn't speak. They were using a lot of Google Translate, and they actually ordered the hottest of the hot. And we were just kind of wondering, like, do they know what they were getting into? Or was it a really unpleasant surprise? We should have done some investigative journalism and followed up on that.
Yeah. I will say, I have tried the hottest of that. It is really hot. I was telling you that story of when I had that Houston's hot chicken in Las Vegas, and that one, I don't know what they do to it, but they make you sign a waiver just to order the hottest, and I will never do anything like that again, because as much as I love hot and spicy food, that was like eating pepper spray. Like it was not edible.
Pepper spray.
It legitimately was. It was like, I'm like weaponizing my mouth. It was not fun.
It's
Max,
good for the sinuses.
Signing any waivers?
Well, no.
I don't know. It cleared everything out for sure.
Everything, Tyler says. Well, Tyler, we were going to do the Pluckers challenge too, but we'll save that for another time.
Oh,
of course,
Yeah.
You guys are there for basketball and not clearing out your system. So let's talk about maybe what's at stake here in Nashville. Is there anything to gain? Is there something to lose? Do we want rest? Do we want best? What do you think the mentality is going into the rest of this week and this weekend?
Because you were saying earlier, this kind of has a different vibe to it than years past. As far as what's at stake for the Aggies?
Yeah, it's the first 2 years or the last 2 years they were here, they were fighting for their lives. Really, the last 3 years, if you can include the NIT year, they were fighting for their postseason lives and where they would fit into the NCAA tournament, if at all. This year, it is certainly locked in that they are going to be in the NCAA tournament. Just a matter of what seed, and so then you kind of start to think a little bit like the SEC baseball tournament, where when there's a lot of teams that are locked into hosting a regional, they're not going to throw the game, but if they lose, it's not the biggest. It's not the biggest loss. They're going to get some rest, and it kind of had me thinking a little bit of that. Is this team has been in a grind all season from non-conference into SEC. Is this a situation where if they do lose in the first couple of rounds that they play, is that a bad thing? I don't know. To me, it seems like you might want that rest a little bit more. Maybe get into a quarterfinal, win a game, and then get some rest heading into the NCAA tournament. Now, we talked to Hayden Hefner today, and Hayden said this seems to be a team that likes to just keep playing. I don't know. What do you think, Tyler?
I do think the way they're built, rest is always, in theory, a good thing. I don't know if this team necessarily needs it, though. I think this is kind of a team that and they're so veteran, too. I think they understand kind of the momentum and playing better. And it's one of those things that if they're playing their best ball right now in March when you want to, you don't really want to go into the NCAA tournament coming off a goose egg kind of game. So while I get, playing 4 games in 4 days is taxing and grueling, maybe you don't necessarily need to win this all, but getting a couple of wins, maybe make it to the semifinals, which they seem to always do under Buzz Williams. Championship game 2 the last 3 years. When they didn't go, they were in the semis. So maybe that's kind of the target, is get a couple of wins, especially because they've got either Vanderbilt or Texas, who's about to play, 2 teams that have already beat them this year.
Yeah. Max, what do you think from the fans' perspective? Would you rather see them go for the hardware, or would you rather see them maybe potentially rested for the NCAA tournament?
I don't know. I want to see hardware, I guess. And so I would love an SEC tournament championship, or I would love an Elite Eight appearance. I don't know if asking for both is a little bit too much. Of course, it probably is. But is it a possibility that we do both? I think so. We've seen that Buzz teams can be prone to going on a run at the right time. So as long as we stay injury-free, I'm kind of with Tyler in that I think the fatigue may not be so much of a thing for this group. So if they end up still in Nashville on Sunday, I think I would be fine with that. And also that Vandy and Texas matchup is fun to watch, because if Texas wins, then maybe we'll get a chance to win the season series against Texas, right?
Yeah, there is that rubber match kind of situation I hadn't even really thought of, because of course there was the the win at Reed Arena, then the loss in Austin,
and now you get the neutral site.
The neutral site. I mean, does that mean that person actually gets to take home the Lone Star Showdown trophy?
Sure.
For the season.
Sure. In the arbitrary. I mean, this, as we know, the trophy. There are 2 trophies in each campus, and it's kind of dumb.
Right. It's more of a commemorative plaque than an actual.
As far as bragging
trophy.
rights, that 100%. You split the home and home, and then you the neutral site to decide it. I think.
Well, let's look at that a little bit too, because the whole conversation starts with that first game, and it could be Vanderbilt or Texas. Who do you think fits better into Aggie success to play?
I think Texas, because you have that X factor in Trey Johnson. He just laid a goose egg in the last game against Oklahoma, which he could potentially do. He's young, or he could go off for 35 points, or 30 like he did, in Austin against A&M. I think A&M's a little bit better equipped. They can beat both teams, but I think they're a little bit better matched up and equipped for a run at beating Texas and Rodney Terry.
I think they didn't have, when they lost to Vanderbilt, the juice wasn't in the arena, the juice wasn't in the team. It was that though? Kind of I see it. That's what I'm saying. I think you're right. I think playing Texas puts a little bit more at stake. Puts a little more juice into the game, especially when probably both fan bases might not have a whole lot of people here.
Yeah.
Max, what do you think? What do you think is the better matchup of those 2?
Neither of them I'm particularly stoked about. But if we're talking about SEC teams that are going to go deep in this conference tournament, I don't really want to play any of them because, the only one that I was never all that stressed about was Auburn, and I know that they're probably not going to deliver that same performance again. I don't want to play Kentucky. I don't want to play Vandy. I don't want to play Texas. So, honestly, I'm just like, it's a very much who cares who we play. It's probably going to be a tough game to win, but we've also seen that we will be capable of winning all these games. So my opinion is just kind of like, whoever it is out there, just give them hell a little bit. Am I wrong?
Well, and then you have to factor in too the Austin American, the Houston Chronicle. Kirk Bowles of the Houston Chronicle. Now that he's over there, reporting today that there is belief that within the administration, there might be a move to want to move away from Rodney Terry, but that would be hard if they make a run in the SEC tournament and somehow get into the NCAA tournament.
It's kind of how he won his job.
Have a good seed. So they're kind of playing. Yeah, they're kind of playing. Might be playing for their coach too, which is a whole other factor.
Well, yeah, that brings up a good point. So you're talking about who'd you rather play, Texas or Vanderbilt? I mean, Texas has so much more to play for right now. I mean, they are literally playing for their postseason lives. So you never want to run into a team like that, a la kind of what A&M has done in the past when they were playing for their postseason lives. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But then you get past this first round. Let's say you do, and yeah, you got Tennessee. That's I think what is so cool about this year's SEC tournament is this is the best we've ever seen this league, and so the teams we're going to see play here tonight are there are multiple that you could say could make a run to the Final Four.
Right.
So you do well this week in Nashville. In theory, you're set up great for all of March.
Hey y'all, it's Max, and if you've been watching the pod, you know this by now that we have a new official sponsor of the Aggie Game Day Extra podcast. And it is a familiar face. You know him, you have seen him around Aggieland for many, many years. Say hello to C&J Barbecue. Now, I don't know if there are many of you out there, but if you live in the Brazos Valley and you have not been to C&J Barbecue yet, what on earth are you guys doing? The crew at C&J started out smoking just about 20 pounds of meat a day in a tiny gas station on a Harvey Road. Now, they serve over 2,200 pounds every single day across 3 locations. So you know it's good. They've fed President Bush, catered for Willie Nelson. Yeah, Willie. But most importantly, they've been feeding Aggies and locals for over 40 years. In fact, I had myself some at a catering event last weekend, and the brisket was absolutely amazing. Don't even get me started on the sides and the appetizers because Justin is always cooking up some amazing stuff. Just get there, see, smell, and taste for yourself. Tell them the guys sent you. C&J Barbecue, a family tradition.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see who is going to be that, if A&M were to make a run or to have some success, win some games, who is going to be that guy that kind of steps up? Last year it was Manny Obaseki. Max, who do you think, if A&M is going to have some success, will be that guy that can kind of support, whether it's supporting Wade or whether it's Wade himself? What do you think?
I would love for it to be Manny again. For him to kind of come out of the woodwork would be great because that would probably mean that we just have yet another offensive weapon to use. And I think for a team that wants to go deep, you want that extra element in there. So I would love for Manny to have a good time in Nashville. I really like the way that Henry Coleman has been coming along the past, dare I say, like 3 or 4 weeks. I would love for Wade to have a good showing and just keep adding points to his record. So for me, it's just I'm rooting for the team. I know how hard they have worked to get to the point that they're at now. And so I would just, to me, I would just love to see some sort of validation, some tangible validation, if you will. Whether that's a trophy, like a conference tournament trophy, or like going farther in the big dance than we ever have. I would love to see something like that. Obviously for me as a fan, but for the players too.
I think for me, I'm excited to see what Pharrell Payne does in this tournament because, A&M's made some runs in this tournament, but they've never done it with a true scoring presence in the post. Mm-hmm. And how much, they especially at the end of the season, you could tell they were running sets that were trying to get the ball into Pharrell and let him do work. Curious, is that the right formula for postseason?
I think it could be. If you pair Pharrell, and I think Pharrell is kind of key to also the future of this team. If he stays next year, you got to kind of figure you might build a little bit around him with the trajectory of how he's kind of progressed as a player and how dominant he can be inside. I'm just thinking of a picture-perfect postseason run for these Aggies. If you have a dominant Pharrell and you have CJ hitting shots outside and Wade hitting shots outside and Zurich hitting shots outside, I think that is a great formula for a March postseason run.
CJ is an interesting one too, because this will be his first SEC tournament run, but he has the experience.
Uh-huh.
He is a veteran leader. I talked to Hayden Hefter. You talked to CJ this morning. What was kind of some of his comments and thoughts heading into this week?
Yeah, they seem like the team is just they're so mature, and they're locked into this. Again, we know that they've got bigger goals and bigger sights, but that's not negating their mentality heading into this week. This is a business trip for them, and they want to make some noise. They want to kind of prove they're there and keep chugging along. They know what they've done up to this point really doesn't matter. And I think CJ's one of those guys who he's locked in. He knows his role on the team. If he can get some confidence coming off the bench, doing what he's supposed to do, knocking down threes. This team's pretty dangerous. I think so.
Yeah, it is good as
I do want to. We're talking.
Yeah.
No. Go for it, Max.
Reporting, folks. Yeah, as good as they did. They finished 5th in the SEC, so they had so many quad 1 wins and a lot of ranked wins and things like that. But at the end of the day, you're sitting as the 6th seed in the SEC tournament, so that means that all the other teams there are going to be good too. So yeah, I agree. You got to keep winning in order to prove that this really is like a historic type team. My question for you guys is what additional paths forward are we talking about? I want to get a little meta here as far as what does a successful season mean? Over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we're looking back. What would you be able to go, okay, yeah, we really did something here?
Go ahead.
I think you need to get to the second weekend. I think at this point that is an expectation. And honestly, it really hasn't changed a whole lot from the beginning of the season. The way the expectations were at the beginning with how veteran this team is and how much the continuity and how much they've played together, you figured this should be a Sweet 16 team. They made it to the second round last year, almost made it, got bounced by the number 1 Houston. So you got to think, to make that next step, you got to make it to the second weekend. And once you're in the Sweet 16, you're a game away from the Elite 8. So it's like, do you make that next step and make actual history getting to the Elite 8? This team is capable of that.
Yeah, and we talked in the start of this podcast about what's best for the team as far as this SEC tournament. And I'm curious with the fan base, if it is a one and done, or they win one game, go out in the quarterfinals, does that sour things a little bit heading into the NCAA tournament, or is there an understanding that a little bit of rest could help? Do they need to, with a late 5-game losing streak like they have, do they need to go ahead and make a push and try to, because you can look at it on one hand of this is a good team that can make a run probably to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament, and that's really where their potential lies. But you could also say that this is a window where they could maybe possibly go in and make a run at an SEC crown. And, what if you win an SEC title, but then go out in the second round? Is that, you come home with hardware, but it's not the ultimate hardware, the national championship. No. I don't know, Max. I'm curious of your take on this from the fans' perspective. You can on one hand see what is best for the team maybe moving forward, but from the fans' perspective, you said you want hardware, but is it a must? Is this the window that they have to win hardware, or is no hardware and going to the second round? I'm having trouble kind of negotiating that in my own head. What would you think from a fan's perspective?
I don't know that I can much better put it in there, but I do think that if we won the SEC tournament and then it was just really clear in the NCAA tournament that they're just gassed or something like that, I think I could still find a moral victory there. And to me, seeding-wise, there's really not much to gain or lose unless you lose the first game to Vandy or Texas, or if you go all the way and win the thing. So this happy medium is actually a pretty big space where we're probably looking at the same seeding no matter what. So for me, it's up in the air. It's I would love to win and win a lot in both of these situations, But I think if I had to pick, I would say let's at least get to the Sweet 16 and maybe be in the running, a really close type of game or something like that to get in the Elite Eight. And if that would happen, even if we were one and done in Nashville, I think I would be okay with it. Okay, question for you guys: Are we ready to talk a little bit of baseball before we go, or do we want to just be all hoops with this pod?
We could talk a little baseball. If we move on, I do want to, admittedly, I need to finish my research, but when we're talking about this rest, NCAA Conference Tournament, how much does it matter? I just want to pull up last year's Final Four. UConn won it all. They're the reigning national champs. They won the Big East Tournament. So they did the whole run through the Big East Tournament, didn't have that extra rest, and they won it all. They played Purdue, who made it to the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament. So Purdue made a little bit of a run, made it to the semifinals. NC State, another Final Four team, won the ACC tournament. So you have already two conference tournament champions in the Final Four last year. The one exception that didn't really make a run was Alabama. They made it to the Final Four. They lost in the quarterfinals of the SEC tournament.
And I believe the two SEC tournament finalists last year were out in the first weekend
Auburn
as well.
and Florida. So Florida beat Alabama. So Alabama got that rest from the SEC tournament and then made the NCAA tournament
And
run.
the SEC and the Big Ten are the two conferences where they get one less day of rest because they're playing on Sunday. So that's something. We can't talk a little baseball, though, and I know we'll be sure to check KBTX.com because we're going to be looking deeper into that phenomenon of what does the conference tournament play going into the NCAA tournament. But the baseball, it seemed like the baseball step was taken 2 steps forward, but then they had the 1 step back with they lost to New Mexico State to end that. I don't know if I know what this team is yet.
Yeah. It's a talented team. I think we've all knew that the talent is there. How good this team actually is still up in the air. It's one of those things that it's a long season. They can get hot. Things happen. But we have a big enough sample size where they've obviously disappointed from what the expectations were. I mean, they just picked up their first Tuesday win last night against Prairie View. I don't know. It's one of those things where until I see the consistency, I don't see this as a team making a deep run. Getting out of a regional might be one of the hardest things in the postseason, and right now I don't know if they're built for that. They certainly don't have the depth yet at pitching. The bats can come alive whenever. It's one of those things that we can see it happen, but it is kind of, I don't know if shocking is the right word, but definitely underwhelming what we've seen so far.
The one thing that I've seen that points upward a little bit is that the defense has been a little bit better.
That's true.
They've kind of solidified some roles since Gavin Grahovec has gone out. The defenses look better. They have runners on base. That's what I've always said. Is as long as you're getting runners on base, you're one key hit away. So I do think there is a possible turnaround for this team, but you're right. It's about consistency, and they just haven't shown that. Max, what do you think?
I just did. Y'all can't see me, but I just did the point that Brad Pitt does in Moneyball, where he's like he gets on base. I agree, and I don't think there's much that you can tell from a 14-0 victory against Prairie View, especially in the 14 part. But it is nice that we held them to nothing, right? Because that just shows that the defense is hopefully starting to come along a little bit, allowing fewer errors and things like that over the past several games. So I do like that from a fielding perspective. That's going to be one of the things that we have to shore up, and the bats will come and go. And it was nice to see Jace get a homer again. So I believe he's 1 away from tying the Aggie record and 2 away from setting it himself. So either way, man, basketball, baseball, we're still witnessing history here. We've got a softball team that's pretty incredible too. So especially with, about a month ago in perspective, where it seemed like the sky was falling, at least for this Aggie, I think that there is still a lot ahead of us for the Diamond Sports and for basketball to at least have a little bit of hope. A little bit of hope, right?
Yeah, well, KBTX is officially on Jace watch right now. Shout out Nicole Griffith, who shot Jace's home run beautifully.
Yeah, she'd be great.
Yeah, now the record could happen whenever. So, the next one's going to be the tying, and then the one after that is going to be the record-breaking home run. And, it's one of those where he can hit 2 home runs in the game at any point right now. So,
and the other thing about it too, conference play starts this weekend, and you never know. Sometimes there are teams that just turn it on when conference play starts. The variability of teams that have pitchers who are pretty good, it can be a little wild, have a good night. Like, you're gonna see the same good pitching, the same good hitting every night. There's something to playing up to that every time that some teams turn around for. And I think when Jace does finally break that record, I feel like everybody's going to see a weight lifted off the shoulders. I think it's something that has been weighing on him a little bit, and it'll be curious to see if kind of the floodgates open, because now he's in that situation where the team needs singles, doubles, and triples.
Yep.
Needs runs across, but he needs home runs. Yep. And once you get that record-breaking home run, then if you don't get another home run this season, but you're hitting doubles and driving in runs, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But you got to get that record. So I think that he'll get out of that slump, and then, like Max said, softball is doing good.
Yeah.
They did take the one. They did drop the series to Florida.
Florida's a really good team, though.
I think as it has been with softball in the SEC a long time, like, as long as you're winning games and get to the postseason, it's anybody's game then, because of how stacked. Like you talk about this year's men's basketball SEC, it's been like that in softball for like the last 5 years.
Right? Yeah. Well, and with softball, they've taken that next step because they've got an All-American pitcher in Emily Kennedy, but they've got more support around her now that they haven't had in the past. So she doesn't have to carry so much of the pitching load now, and I think that's huge. Their hitting has been fantastic. Mac Barber, the transfer, and then you got Maya Perez, who's been kind of the Coco's good, but Maya Perez kind of been that surprise. She emerged a little bit last year, now she's really blossomed this year. This team I wouldn't say it'd be a disappointment, but it's almost like you got your sights set on OKC, in the Women's College World Series. I mean, they are that talented. And they were close to getting there last year. I think they can take that next step and get there this year.
I want, for in the future, I want Max always to be in my ear, because it's kind of like we have our own personal Lil Jon, where every time we make a good point, there's someone going, yeah.
A little hype man.
Yeah, let's go. So, I just want a little Max hype man in my ear at all times.
I'm trying to combat the delay to make it look like more conversational. See, but then it just messed up, because now you can tell there's a delay. But I think we're doing okay. I think we're doing pretty good. We're almost through the pod, and I've only interrupted Tyler twice. I think we're doing okay.
That's a lot better than how much Travis interrupted me when we did our little Twitter space, X space at the Florida game when we were in Gainesville. So you're doing great, Max.
We need another weather.
I just try to interrupt Tyler as much as I can at any point.
Right, exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, it was softball. We could be talking another super regional SEC matchup. And just real quick on baseball, I think maybe we give Coach Early the benefit of the doubt and assume that he was, in fact, trying to figure out stuff through non-conference, and maybe we will turn it up for conference. Maybe he's got a pretty solid idea of how the lineup, of how the infield and outfield rotation looks moving forward, but we will see. Anything else for you guys from Nashville before we go?
No, I think we're just ready to soak in some hoops, getting ready to get this thing really going. And
I'm ready to eat some more good food. That's really why we're here, right?
You can find some great food in Nashville.
The assembly hall across the street that has everything you want. I mean, we're in a good little location around Vanderbilt that has a lot of restaurants that we can explore. So we'll get the work done, but then we'll make that happen.
I'm not complaining that the SEC tournament is here, not in Huntsville, Alabama.
We'll bring you back a doggy bag, Max.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. And go to Tootsie's on Broadway. It's a tourist trap, but I don't care because Broadway is awesome.
Will do.
Okay, good contribution there at the end there, Travis. Okay, well, we're going to wrap up the Aggie Game Day Extra podcast.
He does that.
For all of your Aggie sports action, go to kbtx.com under the sports section, or they have a fancy little app as well. So for Travis Brown and Tyler Shaw, I am Max Crawford. We will see you guys on the next one.